Howdy. Let's have a look at Kegan Anthony Kline and what the real world impact might actually be going to be to do with this common or garden child pornographer scumbag. A little while ago here on this channel, we had a chat about Operation Molto, and this was a sting operation that was run by Australian Federal Police at the AFP in conjunction with a child abuse advocacy network, and it went on for a number of years from 2019, and so many arrests were made all around the world. Okay, so it's a network of scumbags who were sharing CP images via a cloud-based platform, right? And people in the UK, Canada, USA, America, New Zealand, Australia were arrested. Their homes were raided. They were arrested. There's 1,200 charges laid, and there were also 153 children emancipated out of servitude to these people. So whether it's their own children, etc., these people, the children that were being used to create, in part, the pornography, so it could be people's own children, the neighbours' children, their stepchildren. It could be people that they know in their neighbourhood, or because they put themselves into a position where they have access to children. So these children were rescued. And what do we have going on in Indiana? Well, we've got investigations into exactly the same thing. And who's at the heart of it? Kegan Anthony Kline and the Anthony Shots account. It's helped blow it wide open. And Kegan, if you look at the transcript, that murder sheet, the podcast, downloaded, redacted, so took the names of people out, etc., and then uploaded, it seems pretty clear that the police that were interviewing Kegan Anthony Kline in that transcript, in that interview with him, are trying to obliquely say to him, start singing like a canary, we're taking this house down, do you want to be inside it or not? The big lump dunce doesn't take the opportunity. It just means a lot more police work, doesn't it? A few more man hours, but they'll get there. So what really is happening in Indiana? This could be a network the size of which matches the one taken down in Operation Molto. Funnily, you know how Kegan, he's trying to deny that he is Emily Ann, man, right? Another little account that used to coerce children into sending through naked photos of themselves. He denies that sort of knowledge. He tries to pretend that he doesn't know who really had access to phones and what was on them and what they're used for and everything. But it's clear that they are part of exactly the same sort of file sharing network, and that network being one that is interested in child pornography, child abuse. So they are getting their resources, their archive, through, number one, catfishing, pretending to be Anthony Shots, pretending to be a girl, Emily Ann, man. And in other ways will be that men that have access to children have groomed and coerced children, or just taken surreptitiously, these images and moving images of children to share. Networks like these also create what you could consider the organized victims organization, like an organized victims group. For example, an older sister who has been talking to someone, and she is, told that maybe she will be more liked by the catfish account if she introduces her younger sister to the catfish, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of ways that people are, children are being used and abused so that their images and the video of them can be then shared to all of these garden scumbuckets around the world. So we don't know how big this network of the people based in Indiana, sprouting from there is. We don't know how big it is, but it has the potential to be international and to include hundreds of perpetrators, hundreds of people sharing, and hundreds of victims. It has the potential to be as large as Operation Molto. And this has a real positive impact on Delphi, on the improvement of futures for a lot of children in Delphi. It has the effect of maybe stopping a certain cycle somewhere along the line. Children that were going to be at risk, they can still be at risk from others, but at least these little domino effect connections and things that draw perpetrators and victims in, well, at least that's been cut down. And yeah, what do you think about the transcript that Murder Sheet, the podcast, got off the legal website, downloaded before it was removed? They redacted names and things, and then they re-uploaded it. To me, it seems like Keegan, the big lumpy dunce, was too much of a dolt, or has too much misguided loyalty, or is in too much fear and awe of others to recognize that he was being offered some type of immunity if he yappered, right? But he didn't. Okay, he sort of pushes that away. He doesn't seem to realize, and I don't know, I thought he had a lawyer in the room with him. I have to keep reading, but it seems that he didn't realize that he was being told, look, you need to just tell us who was this person, who is using these phones. He's, so, sorry, I'm starting to ramble a bit. I've just got to actually run out the door. So I start getting a bit tied up. But, he's denying that he knows who Emily Ann is, Man is, and that it's nothing to do with him. He's trying to say that he's not sure who has his passwords to what phones. He's trying to say that some of the information on his devices wasn't him, and he sort of failed to roll over, and he really should have. He didn't know what was fucking good for him. Look, what it means is that just need more man hours from law enforcement, more resources. They'll get there in the end without that pig anyway. Yeah. So, how long will this investigation go on for? Because it's been rolling for a little while. Are we about to see even more raids and arrests? Therefore, more perpetrators taken out of the system, at least temporarily. Sadly, as we discussed in the Operation Molto video, what happens is it means that people just can get together in prison and connect with new people they want to network with, etc., trade information, give moral support to. They discuss seduction, grooming techniques, and the like. And then when they get out, they're connected, aren't they? And they just keep going, because we know if we don't heal these things, there's no cure. There's no cure for people like this. But, you know, there might be healing for the children and the young adults and the adults that they've grown into, if they've had the opportunity. There might be opportunity now for them to heal. It should be a huge learning curve. We can't not pay attention to what our children are doing in our homes. It's your moral obligation as a parent. Stop trying to be their friend or the cool mom or the, you know, the busy provider father. Pay attention, you know. No privacy when they're on devices. Yes, you can use your iPad or your personal computer. It's here in the corner of the lounge room. It's not in your bedroom. You are not 18. All passwords must be shared. You know, put certain security locks on your computers and on your child's devices so that they can't access certain sites, and talk to them. Discuss these things with them, correlating to, you know, how old they are. You know, structure your communication with them, you know, so that it matches their level, and meet them at the level, and educate yourselves, and don't just stick your heads in the sands, because younger and younger children are vulnerable to becoming victims. And it might seem at first to them like it's something not dangerous, because they are wanting to be sophisticated, they're wanting to grow up, and they are wanting to explore, and they're curious. And, you know, these men, and they're not, don't think of them as just these dirty old men. These people, they're often late teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and they've been abusing for a long time, and they continue until they're stopped. You know, they know to take advantage of young girls' blossoming sexuality, blossoming curiosity, blossoming need for privacy in their lives, and, you know, autonomy from their own families. And they take advantage of the disconnect that happens in a lot of people's homes, where people aren't talking and no one really knows what's going on. You know, Kelsey said, didn't she? Libby was the keeper of her secrets. You know, do you wonder? Secrets around catfishing. What did they share as sisters that Kelsey might have that guilt she wants to assuage, in the same way that the daughter, I think Kate from the shack, had to live with for years until she could talk about it with her father and heal the guilt that she had, due to her younger sister being kidnapped, raped and murdered, because she's out having her own problem on the lake, taking away the father's attention. You know, I wonder what, I know that Kelsey has come out to say this isn't about catfishing, we've been told this, etc., right? But I mean, clearly, see, as I've said before, there doesn't need to be a relationship of the murders to catfishing for there to be catfishing. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't catfishing involved. It doesn't mean that Kelsey knew that Libby was in contact with someone. Kelsey could very well have been the initial contact. for the catfishing account. All the girls had social media. Libby, and I guess Abby too, being, they're 2 years younger than Kelsey. Kelsey was really not that old. She was 16, and I know at 16 you feel like you are so, you've blossomed already into this adult. You feel like you're the schmizzle, you know things, and you don't. You're an absolute child, and no matter what you've had on your shoulders all your life, right, you're still very young at 16. And Libby, being 14 and Abby 13, were so ultra vulnerable. They're on TikTok, right? And we know what TikTok is. I mean, for an example, James Bryan Chadwell, doyen, connoisseur, I should say, of TikTok. They were exceptionally vulnerable because of TikTok. And I would like to know more about the investigation into Keegan Anthony Kline, our garden variety scumbucket, and what other social media platforms he was viewing. I doubt he could have made very many videos, right? He is an exceptionally physically ugly person, and not just because the ugliness just seeps out from every pore inside his body. And I think, the catfishing idea, all of that, I think it is tied into how he's been made to feel as a person, how he's been brought up by his father, how he feels about himself, and I mean, in a way, Keegan Anthony Kline was very likely groomed into being a perpetrator. This is the organized victims group side of things right there in front of you to see how it works. You're introduced to these things often, or introduced at least to your tastes, or introduced to ways that you can go about, getting your satisfaction. And the people that were around Keegan, I think there's so many things going on with him. It's interesting because he is deeply involved. He's obviously a pervert. He views this content. Has he created it? He's definitely collected it. He's coerced people into sending it, and then it's been shared. But what does he really know about what does he really think or know about the people that are involved? Does he know how far they would go? Does he know what they're doing to get materials? Is he naive, or is he wholly knowledgeable? I don't know. Would he not realize to this day, or maybe he's realizing now, but would he not have realized for a long time that actually people will take it into somewhere as far as the situation of wanting to murder or murdering? Does he realize that's what he's tangled up in? And does he think that somehow there's victimless crimes, or does he just not care about the hurt he's giving because his childhood, he was harmed and abused by his father, he says, emotionally, maybe in other ways, who knows? Does he just have zero compassion for the girls that he's hurting? Does he view them as deserving to be harmed if they're, stupid enough, quote unquote, to send in their images? Does he think, no, they're not being victims because they're doing this willingly, even though they don't realize they're talking to me and not Anthony Shots? It's their decision. Does he not know to view them as little children, or does he realize what it is? How young are the children that he's viewed? I don't know why I've got the number 9 in my head. They keep talking about it in the transcript, 9 to 13. But I'm not sure if that's who he was viewing or if that's what the Emily Mann account was talking about, and if others have said that using that account. Sorry. Anyway, all I just wanted to say was, let's actually recognize what might truly be happening here. I mean, I think people already do. They see that there is a lot of hustle and bustle happening now. There are a lot of arrests. But did you stop to think for a minute that this operation, this is probably bigger than Indiana? It's probably bigger than Indiana. And this could be huge. This could be just as big as Operation Malto, Operation Rescue that came before it, and many others. And at least it's a temporary halt, right? But it needs to be a lesson to people who, for whatever reason, maybe just don't recognize what's going on with their own children because they're stressed or busy, single parents, or whatever it is that they're struggling with, right? But, you know, if you can't pay attention to your own children, yeah, don't let them become victims. And we need to get better at recognizing if we are having interaction with someone that might be a victim. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I've gone on for long enough. Yeah, I just think their pathetic little joke, you know, Emily Ann, I just think that's saying man. I really think that. It's just totally pathetic. Yeah, you've got to wonder, were they selling images as well, or selling, how does it work? Do they sell the passwords? I mean, Keegan Kline didn't have a job, never had a real job really. So he was very much into some serious drugs, PCP, LSD, and I wonder if he's into some drugs that are commonly linked with sex acts, such as crystal meth, amphetamine. But I would say he's definitely been a dealer to raise money, and I mean of drugs, not in Vegas. But what else, right? Does he sell? He sells his devices. We know that. One of his acquaintances handed in to law enforcement an iPad that Keegan sold him for $100 because he was terrified of what might be on there. He did not want that iPad back. He didn't want whatever might be on that device. Was Keegan selling devices that were set up with catfishing account with contacts, or was he just selling the passwords to these cloud-based networks, you know, to these platforms, to these drop boxes? He's trying to act like he's very naive. He doesn't really, why? That's my drop box. How was he sustaining his life? I know his father's working at Chrysler. For your information, working as a an automobile upholsterer is in the top three of skilled jobs for serial killers. So we know another dirtbag worked with or at Chrysler as well as Jerry Tony Kline, Keegan Anthony's father. Seems like Anthony is kind of a family name that gets handed down as a middle name in the sons, and then the person goes by their first name. So Keegan and Jerry Kline. you know, they're selling these passwords to the Dropbox, to these images, and then, you know, is it just this sort of loose network, or are they controlling it more from there? You know, what sort of money were they making? When and how and from whom? Yeah, so this could be big anyway. I just wanted to say my humanimal, my humanimal prediction is that this could be a huge house of cards coming down, and Keegan Kline, all he's done, I mean, he should have spoken out against his father, against anybody. He was given the opportunity, because simply it saves legwork and resources of the investigative teams, that's all. But they'll get there in the end. Who are Indiana State Police reaching out to? You know, do we know who they're talking to about this? Maybe they need to speak to international leaders of groups that have brought down these operations. Maybe they do have the assistance of the FBI, but maybe they should be talking to people who have been in charge, for example, of Operation Molto. You know, they need to collaborate with resources around the world, because let's face it, this is going to be a takedown, I think, of international scale. Speak to you later.